Hey folks, Mr. Dell here. We are looking at a problem that deals with ratios and proportions and possibly unit rates. So this is I'm taking this problem from CPM course 3, and this is section 4.1.3, number 4-29. It says, Joe drove 100 miles from San Francisco to Gilroy and used 4 gallons of gas. How much gas should he expect to use for a 3,000-mile trip to New York City? Okay. So we're just going to consider this as a ratio, right? So I'm going to write a ratio. And remember, ratio is comparing two things. In this case, I'm comparing the number of miles driven to the amount of gas used, right? That's my ratio. So it's 100 miles, and that used 4 gallons of gas, right? So there's my ratio that I have of comparing miles to gallons. So for every 100 miles, 4 gallons of gas. So it asks how much gas should be expected for a 3,000-mile trip. So if everything is the same and all variables are the same in this case, I want to know, can I look at this ratio and write an equivalent ratio, right? An equivalent ratio considering 3,000 miles in order to find out how many gallons. Okay, so we're writing a proportion. When you write equivalent ratios, your equivalent ratios are what we call a proportion. Okay, so looking at the ratio 100 over 4, how do I get that to be a 3,000 over something, right? So if I think about equivalent ratios are just fractions, and I can use the rules of fractions to solve for x. In this case, my number of gallons, right? So I'm taking 100 over 4 is equal to 3,000 over x. Well, if I look at this one is a nice one where I can actually just use a giant 1 multiply by 30 top and bottom, right? My giant 1 of 30 over 30, because 100 times 30 is 3,000. Therefore, 4 times 30 is what? 120. So in this case, it would be 120 gallons of gas for that 3,000-mile trip. Okay. All right. So that would be one way of looking at how to find that. Use considering the ratios, create a proportion, and then solve for the missing variable. So the next part, what is the unit rate? In this case, it wants my unit rate as miles per gallon. Be sure to justify your reasoning. So I can start off with this ratio of 100 miles for every 4 gallons. I want to know, what is this as a miles per gallon? So miles on top, miles per 1 gallon. So that being said, I need to now, again, consider the ratio of two equal ratios. And this, I want a unit rate for this one. Unit rate always ends with a 1 in the bottom, or a single, right? A unit. So how do I do that? I can divide top and bottom by 4. So 100 divided by 4 is 25. 4 divided by 4 gives me that 1. That's what I want. So I wanted 1 in the denominator because I wanted 1 gallon. So what do I know? I know it's 25 miles per 1 gallon of gas. That is the unit rate, miles per gallon. Okay, there we go.